Well, hello and welcome. I'm Robert here in the great state or Republic of Texas, and we want to welcome you to the special Vision with the Z in the middle, Vision Call. It's an interview with this lady who definitely, as you'll hear tonight, she encapsulates what we teach with our core values, and she is the epitome of a servant leader. And she definitely like attracts likes, because we're going to bring on Jill in just a moment to help introduce Lari. And so it's an honor to be here. My co-host is my big brother, Jim.
Yes, from the land of confusion sometimes, but not today. I am so looking forward to this call and have heard such great things and expected. And so we're all in for a treat. Thank you for inviting her.
Yes, we are in for a treat. Thank you, Jim. So whether you're on this live, whether you're new, whether you're a veteran to this community and this beautiful culture and these transformative formulations, as Kirsty, our Chief Science Officer, says, these exquisite formulations. And it's an equally exquisite culture, isn't it, guys, with this community that we love here. And we've created a beautiful community to date. And we're just about within a few weeks. What do y'all think, guys? Maybe a month and a half, couple months from now, we'll even publicly include one of our neighbors to the deep south, if you're here in the States. And if you're in Australia, where it's a beautiful addition to our family here, to the US and Canada, and now soon to be the Australian market. So I know I have some notes here, but to kind of bring her bio to life, I'm going to ask my sister from another mister, a very close friend. Most of you, if you've been around Zlevo any amount of time, you know this beautiful lady who's a pioneer in this company and the top income earner in our community. Jill, could you help us introduce and just let us know who this lady is that we're about to learn from tonight?
Oh, would I ever? Yes, yes, yes. We have become like sisters. We're super close, super good friends. We've been working, oh gosh, for the past 2.5 years, just linking arms and getting everything ready to launch in Australia. I first met this wonderful woman, Lari Hilzinger, in the loo. I met her in the bathroom in San Diego. And she's like, oh my gosh, Jill Birth, we got to get a picture. So we took a picture in the bathroom together, and that was the starting of our love affair for sure. So of our friendship. And we've kept in touch over the years. And then when we launched Zlevo, she reached out. She's like, tell me more about what's going on. So I've really gotten to know her so much in the last 2 years, especially the last year. She has an incredible husband whose name is Alan Hilzinger, and her 2 daughters, Holly and V, and a dog named Toffee, who's always on our Zooms that we love so much. So it's a pleasure to have her on the call tonight. She is amazing at everything she does. And one thing I know for sure, she has a heart of gold, and she is driven. She has led this country of Australia to great heights, and have been taking care of so many things behind the scenes, and just brilliant and business savvy. And she's a pioneer of the industry for sure. In our last company, they were top income earners in Australia and part of the Millionaire Club. So she definitely has experience behind her, and she is incredible. So La, welcome to the call, babes.
Thank you for the lovely introductions, all of you. So thank you so much. I'm actually honored to be here. Thank you.
You are so welcome. It's an honor to be here as well. And Jill, you've got to know, is it okay if I call you La? It's just easier. Is that okay?
Absolutely. That's what everyone calls me. So okay. It's perfect. Yep.
We'll go there. I kind of want to add Zila or La Z. So,
with a silent Z. La with a silent Z.
With a silent Z. I love it. La. Well, again, you know, and I those of you watching this Zoom as well, I'd heard of Lari and the Hilzingers down there, down under, because we were all involved in a previous venture, and I just couldn't wait. And then when we finally kind of heard that we were opening up in your beautiful country and part of the world, and then I said, Jill, well, who are these leaders and what are they like? Are they our tribe? And Jill said, yes, they're definitely our tribe, and they align with our core values. And I couldn't wait to meet you guys, because my first question, Lad, what are your thoughts, and what was your initial reaction once you experienced more and more of the culture and the community here with this company? I would love to hear some thoughts around that first and foremost.
Well, I haven't truly experienced all the culture with you guys to date yet, but I must say that I initially reached out to Jill purely about the products, and I wanted better gut health. That was my whole reason for reaching out to her. And I experienced that with the products, but, getting them to Australia with the American dollar and the shipping and everything like that was just so expensive. And, as a customer too, because you can't just order them without, being there. So I then looked into the possibility of, helping the company actually come to Australia with Jill. And so we had a lot of conversations with Brandon and Mitch and all the corporate team. And I love the people, so when I said a lot of conversations, it was all online initially. And I thought these are really great, heart-centered people that have the company's vision foremost in mind, and they're great products. And so, I really do think I can align with these people. And but it wasn't actually until we flew over to America and went and met them in person. And honestly, I hadn't 100%, I was happy to actually help the company, regardless of whether we ran with it or not. But I actually wasn't 100% all in. I wasn't 100% sure if I would actually build a business myself. But when I walked into that office, the minute I walked into that office, and has everyone actually been into the office? Everybody on this call? Yeah. I know some of you live right nearby, and I don't know if there's anybody that is listening to this call or later or is on and hasn't been in. I think, it was actually a game changer. And I want to stress how much of a game changer it was to actually walk into that office and feel the energy and meet those people in person. I know through Zoom, we can actually feel people's energy and we get to know them really well, but it's entirely different to go into a company and embrace the people in there. And from the minute I walked in there, I actually knew that I could find my home. I loved how relatable and free-spirited Brandon was in sharing his personal life with us, with taking us around, to his favorite restaurant and just chilling with us too. Actually, I really liked that. To be able to have, a fun conversation and felt like I could easily be myself. I didn't have to pretend to be somebody, which I had no intention of doing anyway. But, it was really that energy, and that was like another piece of my puzzle, which I needed to have in place to know that I could stand with this company and work together alongside it. So from that perspective, with the culture and experiencing that, I knew I was in the right place. I felt at home.
Wow, I love that. And when you say you felt like you could be yourself within
Yes.
this culture, can you touch on that a little more? Because one of the directions tonight, for those listening, La and I had a real brief pre-brief. And I said the whole agenda tonight, one of the flows, hopefully we can go down tonight, is what does it mean? What does it look like to be a leader who pursues excellence and a servant leader within this industry, much less in Zalevo? So within that context, what was it that reassured you that you could be yourself, and even you people you potentially brought into this community could also be themselves and be uplifted? What created that?
Yeah. So my human tendency, Robert, is to be a bit of a chameleon. So when I say human tendency, when I'm not intentional about who I am and how I'm showing up, I can try to people please and make others feel at ease, almost trying to control the situation. So just to keep others happy and get out of it alive kind of thing. Like that's my human tendency. But when I'm intentional and I am coming from my highest good, then I can show up as myself, you know. And it's some environments it's easier to do it, but you know, I'm not a victim. So regardless of where I go, I should always be, you know, my highest, I should always be coming from that higher intention. However, in some circumstances, it is easier to be yourself than in other circumstances, you know? So, and I just found it at ease to be in that particular situation, you know? And it's really a matter, actually, it's quite fun. There's a story about a Buddha. It's just a hypothetical story. I don't think it really happened, but this probably explains it a little bit better. So I'll just share a quick story. There was a gentleman that went to a Buddha and said, you know I should be at ease in my, I should be okay with whatever goes on around me. And I'm living below this rowdy nightclub. And every night they have these huge parties and it's sending me insane. And the Buddha said to the man, he said, my dear child, you're not a tree, get up and move. And like there's certain circumstances, if you put yourself in a particular environment, it is going to be much easier to feel at ease and go harder at it than constantly being in check with yourself. So without, you know, being a victim or anything like that, it's, you know, I know I'm getting a bit deep and whatnot, but it is easier to be at ease in certain circumstances. And I felt at ease without actually trying, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. Show of hands, who else felt at ease when you're one of our events with this community, whether online or face-to-face? It's a very welcoming, affirming, uplifting community. And you, many companies talk that all day long, don't they? Versus you don't always see it manifested. Whether you're with somebody in a stage or in a public event, or as you say, you're chilling, regardless, you can quickly see what the people are all about. And our leaders, and especially Brandon, personifies that. So I guess one of my other questions, and you touched on this, is already on the call, is that you said getting in touch with your higher self. One of my questions, what point in your journey did you actually see a connection that you could be a version of your higher self and pursue the higher good tied to this profession of network marketing? I know we go back, Jill's already mentioned it, a number of years, the prior venture, but what shifted and what created the shift? I would love to hear that.
Probably my initial shift, you know, it's a journey, what you're asking here. It's, I don't think it's something that just like well, maybe if there was a switch, I'd have to say it was when my son died at birth and I had a huge wake up call. So I was living in Japan and my husband and I were expecting our son and at full term, and he died in the birthing process. It was a big wake up call to me because in that moment, it became light and day in relation to like dark and light, just in relation to life and what I was doing, because up to that point in time, I was climbing the corporate ladder and people pleasing. Once again, as I said, that's, you know, my human tendency. It's my default to go there. And it's a habit that I've had since I've been really young. And I've experienced a lot of, I've experienced that in lots of different ways. And it's quite aware to me. So that was my initial switch flicking on. I mean, leading up to that particular situation, I did start to think to myself, you know, what's next? What do I do here? I've mastered Japanese. I've done all these things. I've climbed the corporate ladder. You know, what's next? Oh, so it must be get married and have kids. And I am actually deeply in love with my husband. And I'm very fortunate that, that we've got a beautiful relationship, you know. So it made sense to get married, but in a way it was to please other people. And then it's like, okay, well, what do you do next? Everyone says, when are you having kids? Okay, well, I must have to have a kid. And so I was very guided by external factors of my life up until that point. And it wasn't until he did pass away that I was blessed with an awareness that I didn't actually want to be a mother that had children and homed them in daycare, that I actually wanted to mother my own children. And if I had decided to stay in Japan, I potentially would have had to be the main breadwinner of the family because I spoke fluent Japanese, and my husband, he speaks okay Japanese, but not to the same degree. He doesn't have the same level of efficiency, or he didn't have the same skill base. So I'd be working full time, and it would, in Japanese culture, that basically means you don't have a life outside of work. Work comes before family in Japan, and that's just how society is there. So I knew that if we were going to get ahead in life, that I'd have to move back to Australia. So it was really just a wake up call in so many different ways for me. But I think from that point, it was a journey and unfolding of lots of different things to actually see my heart, to really see what my truth was, and to follow my truth. And a lot of the time that's looked like being incredibly vulnerable to situations that life presents me. And I think everybody has situations in their life that we're presented with, these next challenges for us. And it's about taking them on board with vulnerability and love to yourself and love to others, and acknowledging the learnings and moving through them and growing as a result of them as well. So to me, it's more like a journey of unfoldings, but that was definitely the key pivotal point that kicked it all off. And actually it pushed me down the personal development route as well, like learning about what life was all about and the meaning of life, and what it's all about, So, and since then we've had lots of different ups and downs. I don't see things as good and bad anymore. Typically in the moment, I see them as bad. But looking back, I actually see them as just as they meant to be for my journey to unfold the way it is. So, but yeah, that was probably the kickoff point, Robert.
Wow. So the wake up call, being present as a parent, and now obviously that's manifested with your two teenage beautiful daughters too. And I guess one of my other questions, how does being vulnerable tie in? How would you tie in? You called it being incredibly vulnerable, actually. How does that tie in to anybody watching this has an interest at some level or the other of serving others, building an income, building a residual, making a difference? How does being incredibly vulnerable tie into the ability to lead a team like you're doing? And I guess another part of the question, I'm getting goosebumps before I ask the question, which is a sign. The other side of the question is how could you be vulnerable like you are and so authentic and still hold a dang vision for 2.5 years? So I know it's kind of a maybe two different questions, but one, how did you hold the vision for 2.5 years that if somebody watching this even right now could leverage that into kind of a relaunch of their business? And does being that vulnerable and holding a vision, has that been instrumental in your ability to attract your team that you have, that you're starting to run with?
Okay, I think I get what you're asking. Tell me if I'm off course. So firstly, in relation to vulnerability, what does that look like? I think it looks like being open. It looks like being coachable. It looks like being presented with a situation and breathing through it and looking at all possibilities and holding fast to what your truth is, but being open to how that plays out. So it's not actually about the how to, it's about you've got this vision and this is where you are at the moment, and not having to have it all planned out and a how-to on how to get there. Because if how-tos worked, then we'd all be multimillionaires, because you can just Google anything, how to, make a successful network marketing business. There's lots of people that have written books on these things, yet not everybody makes a successful network marketing business, right? So it's so unique and individual to each person, as well as it's, there's a journey unfolding, and we all come from different spaces and with different abilities and uniqueness and even different human rubbish going on for us each, right? So it's all different. So from that perspective, being open to how that unfolds. But if you can continue, and from my experience of life, what I found is if I can continue to hold that vision and be really aware of what's going on in my current reality, like what's in this space, and there's some things that are in alignment with my vision, and there's some things that possibly aren't in alignment with my vision, then I can successfully bridge the two. But I don't need to bridge the whole lot just yet. I just need to bridge the first step. I don't need to overcomplicate it. I just need to look at the first step. Like what's important for me to do right now that's going to get me closer to that vision. So I think that's what vulnerability looks like. And I found the people that are the most open and coachable and prepared to admit their mistakes, to fail. And look, it sounds like it's really easy because we all talk about failure and, you get back up again and all this. But for some reason, there's lots of people that don't want to make a change. Like they might know what to do, but they just don't want to change. They don't want to change anything. And that's vulnerability as well. Actually saying, yeah, I've made a mistake, I've fallen over, and maybe I've made the mistake 20 times. And please, I've made some mistakes over and over and over again. And it doesn't make me a lesser of a person. And I don't need to make it mean anything other than the next time I do it, I'm going to intend on, doing it differently. But it is about intention and sticking to that vision regardless, or sometimes, you know what, too, maybe it is about looking at that vision and going, actually, is this vision true to my heart? Is this my real vision? Or is this a vision that my parents told me that I had to have? Like I did back when I was reassessing my life when my son died. It's like, do I actually want to climb a corporate ladder? Do I want to work in the corporate field? Is that actually true to me? It's like, actually, at that point in time, no, it's true to me to mother and to be present with my children. And also, I enjoy business. I enjoy working to have, a little bit of that going on too. So to be really honest with yourself, as well as being honest with others, being honest with yourself is really important. That, what's your truth and what's somebody else's truth that's been presented to you that you thought was a good idea because someone else told you to do that.
Wow.
So I think that's what vulnerability looks like. And I was just curious, like, I don't understand the concept of the 2.5 years of holding the vision. What's that? Oh, you're meaning in relation to us getting Australia up and going.
Exactly. Yeah. And when I asked a couple of my other teammates, including Jem and Carol, and other leaders, that was one of the questions that kept coming up for us to ask you. And Jem was very excited to hear that answer because think about this. It also, if we're really real about it, it's almost like we're going through a relaunch here in Zalevo land all over the place, not just in Australia. Let's be real about it. We just upgraded our compensation plan. Now it's truly like, it's the galactic level, and we just doubled our product line right before the summer craziness. And now we're about to enter our busiest, our most lucrative season to enroll and recruit coming up in the fall season. We have this new system. So it's not just you launching a country, we're relaunching a company. And so many of us have held the vision here in the US as well as you in Canada. So you understand the context?
Yes, I do understand the context now. That was what I was looking for, the context. And it's interesting you say that because actually, yeah, you know what, along that journey of the 2.5 years, firstly, and it was something that I wanted to say on this call today too, it's about not having any expectation, detaching from expectation. You can have intention, but expectation, you can leave that stuff to the side. And I actually think that that's a really important key, and a great mentor of mine gave me that key to use, and it's just, it served me well over time. So I never had any expectation of anything, but also too, to know that, you know what, I had so many wall kicking moments and frustrations, and is this even worth it? Do we even do this? Should I even bother? And my head will talk me out of it all day, all the time. You can even ask Jill. I rang her sometimes. I'm like, Jill, I don't even know if I want to work in this industry anymore because everybody comes to me for weight loss, and I'm not about weight loss. I don't want to be about weight loss. I got teenage kids. Like, you can reason, your head will help you reason whatever's out there, whatever's possible, right? But then when I come back to my heart space and my truth, and I'm just terming it as head and heart here. That's how I do it. But that's what I'm referring to. Your truth, your highest good, your truth. It is true to me, even though at a head level, at my mind, if I'm at a human level, I could reason all the reasons why I don't want to be involved in weight loss. But my truth is that it's much bigger than that. And, there was so many of those moments. I won't deny that. I can remember them quite clearly, actually, over the 2.5 years when I'm like,
I
is it
won't
even?
deny them either.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was one of my questions, La, to Jill. So Jill, what did you see with the combination of being just this vulnerable, heart-centered, passionate, leader? Were there a couple lessons you learned from La? I'm sure there were many lessons you've learned from her in the last 2.5 years that we could all learn with you.
Yes. Wow. That's a loaded question because I've learned so much: persistence, dedication, long suffering for sure. This has been a big deal, and it still is a big deal trying to get everything up and going over there. And there were those wall kicking moments, and she was making a great income with our past companies. So they didn't need to come over. They didn't need to leave that company. It just came down to integrity and how they felt, being aligned there or couldn't be aligned there. And so it was a lot for them to make the decision to come over and to even want to build again. And we had many conversations around that. But when she jumps in with both feet, oh, hold on, hang on. When she and Alan, Michelle, her husband Alan, and Michelle Fuller, who I don't know how many of you have seen, but when they jumped in, La has been the ringleader of the whole thing, and she's very smart, just does everything to perfection. Kind of at a fault, I guess, too, sometimes, because she just wants to be perfect at everything, and it always turns out that way for sure. So the lessons I've learned from her is persistence, and Robert, one of your famous sayings, doing it perfectly imperfect. Just jumping in and doing it, whether she's going to be doing it perfect or not, but it always turns out so great. And just the dedication that this Australia team has, and with her leadership skills and leading this entire country, it's just been incredible to watch and to witness firsthand for sure. She's beautiful, beautiful human, inside and out.
Well, and we are discovering that more and more on this cause. We get to know this beautiful lady. Thank you, Miss Jill. So to kind of shift into the practical, what it looks like day to day live, we might hear for a moment. So I know I asked you when we chatted just for about 5 minutes earlier, what is one of your, I know Jill has one called Pace, which she loves, and which is part of her perfect kind of ideal way to start the day. What are some of your, if you want to call them rituals or routines or even habits, that have really enabled you to have had success already with several million in residual, and now as you are launching Zalevo?
Yeah, it's a great question. And look, I've tried a lot of different things. Do you guys know Robin Sharma? He's an American that's written So I was a big fan, and I read his 5 a.m. club, and I was like, right, I'm going to start this 5 a.m. club with the 20 minutes of reading, 20 minutes of intention work, and 20 minutes of exercise. Now, I'm not a morning person, Robert. Alan and I lasted about a month, I think. I was like, I can't do this. And I actually started making myself feel bad because it wasn't me. It just didn't work. And look at, we have tried a lot of different things. And actually what I keep coming back to is I do actually have, at any point in time, 10 intentions, which I call them my choices, Robert. So every day I don't start the day without actually doing my intentions. And I intend on doing them for less than 5 minutes, because I feel like anything longer, I'll be taken off track and I can't do it. So I actually have them voice recorded on my phone, and I listen to them as soon as I drop off my kids at school. I actually listen to them, and I step into the end result of what they look like, what it feels like to be living in those intentions. And then I pick 2 a day that I'll actually look at exactly what I said before. I'll look at the intention, and then I'll look at, so I call it a choice. So I look at the choice. So, one of my choices is I choose the end result of being healthy. Like, it's that simple. I choose the end result of being healthy. I'm like, that's my choice, that vision. So what does that vision look like? It looks like freely living in my body right up until I'm like 70 and 80, whatever comes to me around that. And I feel into that, what that feels like, what it looks like. And it, for me, it looks like being there with my husband, exercising and feeling good and having great nutrients going to our body, fueling our bodies. And we've got a lot of free movement and ease. And then I look at, so then I do, as I said, with 2 of them, I'll just randomly pick them. So usually I get through the whole lot within a week. I'll look at the current reality in relation to that vision. So when I look at the current reality, I look at things like, oh, right now I've got a pain in my back. It could be something like that. Or it's not necessarily negative things. It could be in alignment with it too. It's like, oh, well, I exercise regularly. I'm taking great Z ViZion products. So just everything that's in the current reality, because, if you've got a goal or a vision, and maybe, what, I do have a lot of great health and I am in that vision. But maybe if I can always take that to the next level, because you're either growing or dying, right? So I'm still going to always intend that vision constantly. So I'm looking at that vision and I look at the current reality. I see the things that are working and for it and the things that maybe are working against it. And I just see them for what they are. And then I look at it and go, okay, well, what's the next step on my journey? It's like, oh, I need to go see a chiropractor. Maybe that's what comes to me. And it's like, okay, I need to do that step. And so that's actually the process that I do every single day. There's rarely many days that I miss in doing that process. But what I know for certain is when I don't do it, so I don't set an intention for my day, the day doesn't go as smoothly as days that I do set intentions. So that one is like I must do every day. And what I love about it is it doesn't take longer than 5 minutes. It's 3 minutes to do all 10 of them, to just feel into that vision. And of course, there's other processes I do with them as well. Like I will do completion processes with them, which takes a little bit longer, at the end of the year when we look at what we achieved through the year. Or there might be little sub choices that I have, like maybe there's a marathon I want to run or something like that that's true to me. That might come up, and there might be a little bit more work to do on that, but that's not something that I do every day. So I'm always doing that little process there every day. Outside of that, some of the habits is, having really great nutrition like Z ViZion. That makes a huge difference in my life. Like, that's just a basis to springboard off. So that's another great one. Outside of that, it would be, going to the gym or doing some form of exercise. Not always the gym. Sometimes I just like to go for a walk or play tennis with my girls. And they're the key things really that I do. So yeah, I you know what, I used to think that, you got to do this, you got to do that, and it just became like a huge long board of things that I had to do, and I felt like I was getting ready to get ready. I was like, actually, what's true to me? What works for me? Like, what's the simple things here? And I don't think there's any right or wrong in relation to it. Definitely humans work well with habits, like with something, but it doesn't always go to plan. So I'm definitely a lot more lenient with myself and do my very best, but you can't do it like in the 4 agreements, what's he say? Do your best, but don't do more than your best. Don't try to overdo, because that's when it's just becoming an OCD, and it's actually, it's not so great either. So I just keep it simple in that regards. So, and look, my intentions to me probably look like prayers to somebody else, it might be something entirely different for someone else. I don't think there's a right and wrong in this arena. It is just doing what feels good for you to set yourself up for the day.
Kind of set yourself in alignment, basically.
Yeah, in alignment. I just find, what, really, it just comes down to intention. Even before a call, setting the intention of what's the feeling that you want to feel like after this call for your higher good.
Yeah.
It's all intention for me, all intention. That's the most important thing in relation to doing a day or doing anything during the day as well.
I love that. I haven't listened to some of your conversations. It'd be fun to look over your shoulder. I assume because of the way you are so transparent and authentic, you are an active listener. So I'm assuming mentoring with your people, reaching out, connecting, inviting people. Would you feel that is one of your greatest strengths as well, as far as you obviously have enrolled a lot of people over the years and in the last 3 or 4 months as well. So one of my, again, practical questions, if this holds true, if this is your truth, do you have kind of a go-to answer to, well, what is this crazy thing you're doing? Are you still with that other company? You know, what is your favorite answer when somebody says, well, what is Zalevo?
So firstly, in relation to active listening, I always think to myself, gee, I don't know if I am a good active listener. I want to work on that. It's actually something that I often think to myself. I have had to practice, and I know that I definitely wasn't a very good active listener, and I have had to practice in asking lots of questions. Great one for people on this call. I don't know if you guys have heard of Chris Voss, who's he's an American who does who did what's it called? Hang on. His book's name is Never Split the Difference. And he did negotiations for hostage situations in America. And now he's teaching sales skills. His course is actually phenomenal. I'd love to do it, but it's in America. So, but I've done one of his courses that he sells online, but his book is amazing as well. And he's got some great little tools, really easy strategic things with active listening, which I've been able to use effectively. But once again, I've had to practice them to use them. So one example of that would be, you know, when you say to somebody, you know, oh, so you're interested in the Zalevo products, and they say, yes, I'd like to lose some weight. And it's just grabbing 2 words and putting a question mark at the end of it. You want to lose some weight? Like, question? Like, it just to put back into the space what people are asking, you know, or you want to feel more healthy, and then they go into further detail, and you literally can keep saying, and then they might say, yes, well, you know, I'm waking up feeling really lethargic, and you can say, lethargic? And they say, well, yes, you know, the lethargic makes me do this, and I feel like this, and this is how it works. And it's actually been a great tool and a really easy one for me to practice active listening. So yeah, that's a really good one. But I wouldn't, I don't know, I think Alan, who's just jumped back in the car, he's a much better active listener than me. He has to listen to me all day long, Robert. So
Hey, Alan, we're gonna go 1, 2, 3 unmute, and we gotta say hi to Alan. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Hi,
Alan.
Hi, Alan.
His mouth's numb because he just got a tooth pulled out at the dentist. So
Oh, we feel for you. We feel for you. Behind every successful man is a successful woman, and behind every successful man is an even more successful woman. So anyway, so we love you guys, and so it was so authentic and so vulnerable for you to say to this group that you're not an active listener. I assume some of your team and probably Jill would maybe beg to differ. Jill, give us a thumbs up if you beg to differ. And that's why she's such an active listener, isn't it? Because you keep your ego in check as well. So I guess one of my last questions, and I can hand it over to Jill and Jim if they have a couple of summary questions. One of my last questions for you is, what's one of the biggest, if there was kind of an epiphany or some, if you want to call them learning lessons in your mentoring journey? Because the essence of our business, we talked about this earlier, Law, was this is what this business boils down to is co-creating leaders who co-create leaders who co-create leaders who co-create leaders. So what is one of your biggest co-creation or mentoring lessons that maybe took a little time or had to get through your stubborn noggin sometimes, or to really learn from your mentoring?
I'm struggling to pull up an answer for that one. Become a leader themselves, is you thinking?
Well, you're cutting
I,
out.
I personally, I tend to. Oh, am I cutting out? Oh, because you're moving, darling. Hang on, he'll just pull over for me. Sorry, guys. No, it's really bad reception. We should have just waited.
We can hear you.
Is it working better now, Robert? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Robert. We're just going to find a piece of road, which is fine. So okay. Can you hear me fine right now? Yeah. Is it all good?
Yep.
Okay, cool. I was just thinking that possibly one of my tendencies is try to help people that aren't ready to help themselves. And so I often hit my head up against a brick wall for people that they tell me their vision and they tell me that they're committed and I want to help them, and they're not prepared to do it themselves. Like they constantly are showing up in a way that isn't serving them and doing the same thing without changing things. So, or, I think, I'll go and help them because I feel sorry for them. And it's just the wrong thing to do. It's actually to help the people that are doing the do and want to do it. So that is definitely something that, I hit my head up against a brick wall, like you said, with your noggin, trying to help people that aren't actually, even though they might say that they want it, they're not actually doing the do of what's required. So I have chosen to choose people that are doing the do and help them more than the people that are saying that they, so, and I've learned that lesson in many different ways. It's taken me a lot of different ways. And you know what? I'll probably still end up helping people that tell me, you always give them the first opportunity. You give them, it's like, even though you might have a conversation about what their vision is and what they want, you'll give them that opportunity, but then they've got to take the steps. And if they take one step, I'll take two. If they take two steps, I'll take four. I'll double it then. But if they're not taking any steps and they keep coming back to me complaining or doing different things like that, then I'm just not going to be bothered with it. I mean, that's my intention, not to be not bothered, but to say, look, to actually tell them, look, I'm not prepared to work with you right now until you've taken this step and this step. I don't think I can help you any further. So go and take those steps and come back to me and then we'll work together. So to have that honest conversation with them. And if they never take those steps or they turn that into, oh, Larry doesn't do anything, well, that's just their problem. I know that I've done everything on my behalf. So that's something that I've had to learn the hard way.
Wow.
Many times. I still do it.
Yeah. You heard.
Al wants to add to it, Robert. Hang on.
Okay.
If he can with his tooth out of his mouth.
It'll be with a bit of a lisp. It'll be with a bit of a lisp because half my face is numb. On that leadership one, I think one of the biggest things is being able to have a conversation with someone on where they really are, like what the current reality of them as a person is. I think that's one of the biggest things that we have learned. And I'll use an example. There's people that walk into this business with a big vision, but they have no trust in their network. Their network doesn't like them, or they've been that kind of person. Or there's people that walk into this business with no confidence, but everyone loves them. Being able to actually truly identify where someone is at right now then allows you to start moving forward on what they are going to do. Because it's no good if you have no trust and no one loves you in your network and they're like, oh, I've spoken to 100 people and no one wants to join. Well, hold on. The reality is that everyone that you talk to thinks you're just either a cheesy car salesman or they don't want to be part of your team or whatever it happens to be. So I think from that leadership point of view, actually being able to sit with people and go, what kind of person are you? What's your network like? What have you done in the past? And get very real on what their current reality is. Someone walks in and they've been in 8 network marketing companies in the last 12 months. Well, what's your network actually looking at you like? And I think that from a leadership point of view is sometimes the hardest conversation to have, but the most important one to have is where are you really in your in your network right now.
Wow. That's a vital one, but as you said, Alan, that's one of the most challenging ones to have. And it boils down to, before you pop back in the car, as you were getting worked on, this call led into truth and vulnerability and transparency. And it's interesting, we're coming full circle to this, isn't it?
We speak the same language, Alan and I.
Yeah.
Even on the reverse, because there's plenty of people that walk into this that have amazing relationships. Everyone trusts them, but they have no belief in themselves. So that's the current reality. Current reality is, if you told 100 people to join, 100 would join, but you have zero confidence in yourself to actually go and do that. That's the current reality. So it's just, I think people are in a different space and being very real. And I don't know what you guys spoke about, but it's one thing we see so many people train. And I think this was the missing that a lot of people have. We see so many people train on the why are you doing this? What's your vision? All for that. But the missing there is that to get to that point, you have to know where you truly are, because you can't build a bridge between somewhere you're not and where you want to go. The bridge can only be built between where you currently are truthfully and where you want to go. So it's all great to talk about your why. It's all great to talk about your vision and all the rest of it. But you'll never build the bridge to get there if you don't actually talk about where you are right now with the absolute 100% truth of whatever that is. And that's all not always negative. Sometimes that's extremely positive. People just aren't aware of it. And I think that's been the missing, is that people get so hyped up in the vision that they forget about looking at the current reality, because then it just becomes a matter of, how do I bridge that and how do I get across there?
And that looks like another example of that would be if you are in the middle of the city. So where are you in Texas, Robert? Which city? Are you in a city or country?
Yeah, we're kind of between the two, where Dallas Fort Worth is only about 40 minutes away.
Oh, okay. Yeah. My brother's in Houston, actually. So I was just curious. So say you're in the middle of Dallas with all the tall buildings, all the concrete cement buildings, and you put into Navi that you want to get home. And often, because of all the concrete buildings and the tall buildings, Navi struggles to pick up on where you're at that point in time. And yet you end up walking around in circles going nowhere, right? Trying to get the Navi to work, trying to figure out, where your final destination, where your vision is. And it's really important. You can see in that situation, just as an analogy, that if you don't know where you are, it's really hard to get to where you want to go. So it is about really taking stock of where you're at the moment, because without those tall buildings and the concrete, break all of that down, like consider that your vulnerability and your truth and all those bits and pieces, seeing all of that with truth. And you know what? Our head often doesn't want us to see all of that. It just says, just keep going, just move. And it's like, no, actually take a moment to figure out where you're at the moment in relation to that. And maybe there's some things that you need to own there. Maybe there's some victimhood stuff that you need to own in that space.
It's interesting too. So I had a conversation 3 days ago with a gentleman who's just about to start building in Zalevo. And I said to him, what do you think held you back in your previous company? And he said to me, there were a couple of things he said to me, but the main one he said was, well, the team that I was in, they were all young. So he was about 48, I think he is. So he was in his 40s like us. And he was like, oh, they were all young guys and this and this and this. And then I started talking to him about some of the people that he had talked to, what they were saying to him, why they weren't joining. So he had this belief that, or in his own mind, justification that it was the team he was in and the young guys he was in. But as we got talking, it turns out that the way he was talking to people was all about, very much about himself, very much about his own transformation, very much about how he had transformed. And then when I started talking through the conversations and where he was at now, he was like, wow, Al, you just nailed it. He said, It had nothing to do with who I was in. It was how I was having these conversations. But that current reality for him to be aware that the conversations he was having were so self-centered, focused at that point on his own transformation, was enough for him to start realizing, okay, that's what I need to do differently. And that's just a really short example, because it was a conversation the other day. But I think and us as leaders, to go back to the leader question, I think one of the challenges that we have is everyone's trying to pour belief without also having that core of the truth. It's like, you can do this, you can do this. But in our own mind, it's like, if they don't change, I'll never do this. So no one's having that real conversation to say, and they're all like, you can do this, you can do this, talk to more people, talk to more people. But it's like, if you keep talking to the people how you're talking to them, you're never going to do this.
Wow.
Rather than actually saying, you can do this, but we need to have a look at what's not working for you right now, where you really are, and make that change. And those that truly want to build and truly have that vision will make the change, and they'll create that success. That's my view anyway.
You know what I love so much? Well, first of all, you know that I love you to pieces, both of you. I love that in the chat, everyone's like, we could listen to them all day long. It's just the words of wisdom that the both of you have separately. And then when you come together, you're just this huge dynamic duo that is a force to be reckoned with. And we are so grateful that you were able to pop on, Alan, to join the conversation with your numb lip. And you don't have any blood. You don't have any blood coming out, so you're good. So
Alan's just had the karma of the dentist build up on him, because so Alan hadn't been to the dentist since he was 12, and I made him go about 2 years ago, and the dentist said, you're the kind of person that would send me broke as a dentist. To do keep getting your teeth cleaned though, but you've actually got pretty good teeth, so keep looking after them. Whatever you're doing is definitely working, and get them cleaned. But then all of a sudden it's come on painful in the last couple of days. I'm like, yes, finally, revenge.
He just wants to shut me up.
oh
No,
God.
I've had really bad teeth over time, so no, I think he's doing pretty good.
I'm
We're-
glad I could time it to be on here for you guys though.
We're so grateful that you were. Robert, do you have anything last words to end with?
No, I just mainly gratitude. And I love how we kept going back to being authentic, being vulnerable, having the qualities of active listening. We talked about active listening, Alan, before you came on, and now you told stories around shifting somebody from just spewing out versus gathering in, and being genuinely interested versus interesting. And yeah, so many nuggets. Yeah, feel the energy, be yourself, be intentional. Thanks for being so vulnerable around the death that was so, I can't even imagine that, and what shifts that led to in your life. Thank you, La. And again, goes back to being vulnerable, and then step into our truth and help others uncover their truth. And from a loving, sincere heart. And that being said, help others also step into their vulnerability and truth and make mistakes. La, you gave us all permission. I think you said I made some mistakes, and then I made some more, and then so you made it very plain to us, La, that you and Alan both have made many, many, many mistakes, and you'll make many more. And you were laughing about it. That's a beautiful, that's a beautiful, yeah, that's a beautiful epiphany right there. So many of us, our pastor says, well, you just made that mistake and that mistake and that mistake. Woe is you, versus we aren't taught that making mistakes is it's part of the journey of success. And I love how the fact that you have you call them your intentions, affirmations, whatever that is, getting clear and keeping it simple. You have your one or two, and you hone in on that, and you're fully present with yourself. You step into your truth, and then you have this reality. You call it your current reality, a reality check. I love that example. And I can't wait to do more of these calls with y'all. And I say y'all, you guys, and we just love you both. Is there a closing? I know we got to get, because we have another Zoom call coming up. Is there a closing thought that you would like to leave with anybody watching this interview or here live?
I've said a lot. I think we've said a lot, Robert. Thank you. We're very grateful to be on this journey with you all, and we look forward to meeting you in person as well. That's all, really. That's all, y'all.
Yo.
Well,
we love you both. Jim, you want
down under? Yeah, I was just going to say we love y'all so much. You better get back here. But thank you for being so transparent and successful being real. No pretense. That's why people will be drawn to you and why you are such great coaches, because they see, hey, I admit I don't do it right all the time. I'm just trying. I'm getting better with each attempt, and so can you. And that gives the new person confidence. Well, you know, I can do this too. And that's what inspires people to be like you. Thank you for being that example for us.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you both. Love and light. Have a beautiful rest of your day there here in the winter time in ours. We're having a toasty summer here. So love you both. Thank you so much.
Love you.
Lots of
guys.
sunshine. Bye-bye.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.